What's up, investors? Chase here from the Note MBA podcast. On today's show, we talk about Robbie not being here because he's off in another country, par usual. But this time, it's for charity, so we're very excited about that. We talk about a marketing mistake, an opportunity for transparency that I recently discovered. We talk about a deal, a CFD happening up in Oklahoma, and we talk about something that is a bit, not a taboo. We just haven't really dove too deep on it on the show just yet. That is deal flow. Anyway, guys, check out this week's episode. You can listen or watch right now. Anytime soon, so I wanted to make sure I got the show recorded before it sounded like some cool jazz. 99.5. What is up, everybody? Hope you're doing well on this Sunday afternoon. You know, one of those types of shows.
First, seconds, performing, non-performing? What the f***? Note buyers, when it seems like you're in this business alone, know Chase, Robert, and the rest of their tribe are at it every week. They're bringing updates from their own note businesses as they work to find, fund, and finish deals. Follow along as they share their grassroots education with you, tuition free. If you'd like to know more about what they do and to download the entire back catalog, check out notemba.com. Now, here are your hosts, Chase Thompson and Robert Woods.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Note MBA podcast, your home for note investing on iTunes. I am Chase Thompson, normally joined by Robert Woods. Today's show is going to be a little different, one, because I'm doing it solo, which I do from time to time, which is always a lot of fun. It's usually a little more daunting than I'd like it to be, just because I want to make sure I can bring you guys the most value as possible. Oh, already slipping up. But I'm by myself, so we've got a ton that we want to go through today. The reason why Mr. Woods is not joining us is because he is down in Haiti. We've been talking about it for a couple of shows now. Essentially, he is down there helping a charity. I think they're building chicken coops and walls and possibly digging wells and just all kinds of really great stuff for a charity called Children's First. We'll be sure to link that up in the show notes as well as the description on the video over on YouTube. More on that in just a minute. But he's down there doing all that kind of stuff, which is truly incredible, totally amazing. But that's why he's not on the show today. So that's one. Number two, if my voice sounds a little different, a little more different than usual, apologies. I've got my hot tea right here with me. I'll be taking sips on that. Every single person in my house currently is sick. I think it's going to be coming to me soon. My wife currently has that like no voice, really low, raspy whisper thing going on right now, which I assume I'll be getting here anytime soon. So I wanted to make sure I got the show recorded before it sounded like some cool jazz. 99.5. What is up, everybody? Hope you're doing well on this Sunday afternoon. You know, one of those types of shows. Before it turned into one of those, I wanted to make sure I got a show recorded for you. On today's show, moving on to the topics we'll be covering, I'm going to be talking a little bit about a deal that we have going on right now, CFD that's happening up in Oklahoma, kind of an interesting situation on that one. And then I'm going to be touching base on something that is near and dear to our show's heart, which is transparency, and talking a little bit about our, Robbie doesn't love to say mistakes. He doesn't love to say, doing things wrong. Opportunities. One of the opportunities that I love to present to people that I've talked to before regarding marketing with your business, and specifically some advice I have given before that I found out was a little harder to follow than I had originally anticipated. So as I take a little sip on that tea we were talking about. Anyway, so today's show will also be appearing over on YouTube, because one of the things we'll be talking about will be a marketing piece that will require some screen sharing. So over on YouTube, if you're listening to this on iTunes, be sure to head over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/notemba. And you can also find links to it all over the place. But head over there. There's a screen capture portion of this show that will cover an in-depth visual example of what I'll be giving you auditorily. And we're going to see how this goes. We've done this a couple times before, and I hope today's setup is better than it has been in the past. We'll see. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then we're going to cover a topic that I don't normally get to talk about because it's one that we don't normally cover topics like this on the show. And I wanted to touch base on it a little bit. While, while the cat is away, the mice will play. While Mr. Woods isn't on the show, I'm going to talk about a topic we don't normally cover. So let's dive in. So the first thing we're going to cover is that deal, that CFD we have going on up in Oklahoma. So it was a really good deal. A lot of the due diligence we had done on the front basically said this was not going to be a modification. This is going to be something we were either going to be taking back, turning into a seller finance or REO, something like that was going to be happening with it because every previous seller was completely unable to get a hold of the borrower. So they couldn't get that right party contact we always talk about. So because of that, we figured, well, this is what this deal is probably going to be, and we're just going to move forward with it, right? Like that's how this is going to roll. Not the case. So right after we bought it, sure enough, here comes the borrower. He's now made himself known, which is great. It now increases our chance of modification, which isn't something that we have a problem with. It just was not an ROI strategy we had really calculated moving into this. So it might still not go that route, but it certainly increases the likelihood on this one. We wanted this property. We did not want to give it back, right? So that was the extra strategy we were going with. So now he's back in the picture. Hey, here I am. Here's me. Hi, Mr. Borrower, all that stuff. So we're like, okay, cool. So we reach out to him with some modification paperwork and then crickets again. Gone. The dude is a ghost, right? So I'm not sure every kind of contact we've made per this issue, no one's gotten nearly as far as we have thus far of actually finding the guy. So it's not like he keeps getting modification documents and then disappearing. He's just disappeared now after the modification documents. So now we're dealing with this deadline on a loan mod because this guy is gone again. He's a wisp, as it were. And so we have to wait for that deadline of the offered modification in before we can kind of move forward with any other actions. He's got to decline it or give us some sort of feedback thereof or something like that, right? So essentially, that's where we're at with that component. So we're waiting for that deadline, usually about 30 days. I think we've got 2 weeks left on this one before we can kind of move forward with whatever it is we're looking to do. One of the most notable things with this deal, and I actually talked about it on a show, I believe a couple of weeks ago, regarding the fact that this deal actually has some capital improvements that have been done by the borrower. So he has done, some of these capital improvements, as it were, and we're not sure if his play is to be, I've done these things, so maybe work with me or what have you. In fact, quote, the reason why he stopped paying on this one, and we always get some interesting issues, the reason why he stopped paying the mortgage on this one is because the economy was bad. I'm gonna give some silence there. I'm gonna let that sink in. The economy was bad is why he stopped. Now he didn't lose a job. He did nothing. The economy was bad, so he stopped paying. Which I applaud the earnestness with which he answers that question. But that's a little crazy. So anyway, so we've got some capital improvements that have been done on it supposedly. One of the stipulations, and this is kind of the interesting point on this one, one of the stipulations on the mod is that if he wants to go through with it, he has to get us detailed internal and external photos. We want to know if these capital improvements have, made the home better or worse. Like, what kind of work is he doing on this property? Is he random, weekend warrior, fixer-upper guy that's kind of cutting corners? Is he actually doing good work? Is he bringing somebody in? What's happening with the asset as it's currently, sitting there and he's doing these capital improvements, as it were? So that's what's happening with that deal. I'll continue to kind of keep you up to date on it. It's an interesting one. It's a CFD. We don't tend to do a ton of CFDs. We've talked about them on the show before, possibly link up to some shows where some other investors have talked to them. I know Jay brought up CFDs on the show. That's Jay Tenenbaum. We'll link up his episode in the show notes. Wayne Snell had brought up, a CFD conversation a little bit. So we'll link up some of those in the show notes for you guys to kind of review those shows if you weren't around when those were live, or if you just want to kind of go back and have an easy reference for those. So it's a unique scenario. There's a lot of kind of moving parts with this one, but with 2 weeks left on the loan mod, deadline, as it were, more than likely in a couple of weeks, I'll give you guys an update on what's going on with that. Moving on to the next piece, the next component. One of the things that we hang our hat on with this show is our transparency, is our integrity, as it were. We like to talk about the times when we could have done something better, when we could have handled a deal in a better way or what have you. This isn't something I normally talk about because not that I don't do things wrong in this situation, but one of the things I've coached a lot of people on with regards to marketing is how to do better email marketing. More specifically, how to make their emails look more unique and better than everybody else's. And one resource a lot of people don't know about, and I'll jump in and do some screen sharing here real quick. One of those resources a lot of people don't know about is a great site called ThemeForest. So ThemeForest has a lot of really great things going for it, but it essentially allows you to get some templates either for your website, and in this case, what we're talking about, email templates. So if you jump in over here on ThemeForest and you type in, email template, right, as it were, essentially what you're doing when you're on this site here is you're buying a theme of some sort for some kind of thing. So these are all email templates. Sometimes what you'll find though is if let's say the email service you're using is like MailChimp, right? MailChimp template or MailChimp, something like that. Sometimes what'll pop up here at the top is something like a newsletter or a landing page or something like that. You don't want that. So you head over to themeforest.net, type in email template, MailChimp template, something like that. What you want to do is maybe go to bestsellers, best rated under their, kind of tabs there. And you want to find an email template that looks sharp, something that you feel like really is going to kill it for your business. So some of the ones that I like this one called Market. I think it's fantastic. I like a bunch of these, to be honest with you. What was interesting though is that I always gave this advice to people. I always told them to go, check out this site, get an email theme, plug it in, and you're off to the races. Well, I wanted to, for those that are on our NodeMBA Insider email, highly recommend you go get on that if you're not already. Just head over to nodemba.com, jump on that newsletter. But I wanted to step up our newsletter game. I wanted it to be a little bit more attractive. I wanted it to look great in your inbox. So I took my own advice. I had always used either templates that were within the service that we have or what have you. We use Aweber for our email service out to you guys. A lot of y'all I know probably use MailChimp. I love Aweber. I love the way that it handles lists. I love the way that it handles being able to tag new people coming onto your database. And their templates are just not good. Aweber has some of the worst templates, I think, in the industry. They're bad. And if they're listening, I don't even care. They're not good. So I, was going to take my own advice. I essentially was going to say, look, I want to go get a better theme, get a better template, really dress up these emails. So I went to themeforest.net, found a really great email template, and then I was like, boom, off to the races, right? Except not so fast. What happened next was a very long time spent of me trying to figure out how to actually make it work. So I know, again, we talk about opportunities. We try to be as transparent as we can regarding mistakes or errors or opportunities we've come across. And this is one of those times. I've been telling people to do this for years, not realizing how difficult it could actually be. So I'm going to walk you through now, obviously screen shared. Go check it out on YouTube if you want to watch the full video. Keep listening to the audio. I've got more to come after this, but walk you through exactly what you need to do to actually implement this strategy. By the way, if you want links to things like ThemeForest and some of the email templates and things I like, I will include those all in the show notes or in the description over on YouTube. So you can click through and just find directly what it is you're looking for. But what essentially will happen is you'll go to ThemeForest, you'll buy the template that you'll get, right? And then you get this folder, that essentially is all of the templates, right? That come with the theme you bought. And so I'm actually going to, on the screen share, kind of show you what some of these templates look like. They're really sharp. They look great. The problem being is once you try to go install them, once you go to try to use them, it can start to get pretty difficult pretty quickly on explaining how this works, especially if you use a service like Aweber. It was more time spent and invested than I'm willing to admit to here to you. Suffice to say, I'm going to save you guys a lot of time and effort, okay? So these are great. These are great looking emails. You can really spice up and dress up your email marketing and make it a lot more effective and really, really great moving forward. But it comes at a cost of the learning curve. So I want to show you guys how to actually do that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to jump into Aweber and I'm going to jump into MailChimp and just show you exactly what you need to do. And of course, if you're listening on iTunes, I'll just describe it audio wise and you guys can rock and roll from there. But essentially all you're going to want to do on a service like Aweber is for Aweber, you're going to want to go to a site called Stamp Ready. Stamp Ready is a really cool service that just allows you to kind of make different email templates and make them fairly easily, as it were. And when you do that, you can export them as HTML, which is how you can import them either into MailChimp or into Aweber. You're going to want to go to New Campaign, and then you're going to go right up here at the top where it says Import Template. After you've signed up for an account and everything like that, it's free. And you'll import it as a zip file. You'll import it as a zip file. So you click on that and it'll bring up, your folder, as it were. So you'll click on your folder and then you're going to go into where it says Stamp Ready. It actually includes a Stamp Ready folder. And you say, well, I want, the example we pulled up was main-9, right? So I want to use that one. So you import this zip file of this really great template. And you go, oh yeah, this is exactly what I want. This looks so sharp. Use template. And you've got to name it. So we'll call it episode 113 template, right? Awesome. And then you start editing. And then from there, you can do whatever you want. You can just add a great header. You can, add in, if you've got, say, some body copy you want to throw in there, you can start to do whatever it is you want. This is where you start to build out what it is you want this thing to look like. You can add the images, you can do all of that kind of stuff. So if we were to jump in here and just say, add some images. So we just click here and we click on change and we just add some images. So we'll do, this image here I just used in a recent newsletter for NoteMBA. So we'll just kind of add that across the board here for all of these. So you just click change and you just add, and then you can change the copy, you can change the links, you can do all of that stuff in here. Super simple. It's actually really, really, really easy. Then from here, to be able to bring it into Aweber, what you need to do, and this is very important, you go over here to export to desktop, and then you name it. We'll just, EP 113 temp, right? This is our episode 13. And you can either include all of the images that you uploaded into a folder, or you can keep them online. And you want to keep them online because those are going to be the referenced images for your actual email that comes up in something like Aweber. So you're going to keep images online, and then it's going to put this HTML file in your, downloads folder, wherever your downloads go. So if you've got a service like Aweber, here's what you're going to want to do. You're going to want to go down and where it says messages and go to broadcasts. Once you come over here to broadcast, you're going to go to create a message, and you're going to do it as an HTML editor message. So then it gives you this giant screen where it wants you to actually imprint some HTML. So what you're going to do is you're going to come over to click source, actually, I believe, and then you're going to drag that onto this screen. So now when you click source in the upper left-hand corner and you drag that onto the screen, this is what you get. All of that HTML. It looks really, really great. And then we're going to just call this, EP 113 test, right? And then we're going to hit save. And now we're going to re-click on source, and look at that. Super attractive, really great looking email template. And so you can already see where there might be some issues or other things that you need to address, but this is how you're going to bring that in and start to work with it and start to go from there. If you have any more questions on using this particular type of thing in Aweber, send me your questions, ask@notemba.com. We can dive in a little deeper. It's a little different if you're in MailChimp. So if you're in MailChimp, we're going to go over here, we're going to log into MailChimp. Alrighty, guys, to get this done over on MailChimp, what you're going to do is you're going to log into your account, and then you're going to click on template. Once you've clicked on the templates kind of category up at the top, you're going to click on create template. There's a blue arrow that just boing, boing, boing kind of points up at the top. So you're going to do that. Then you're going to click on import zip, very similar to how we handled this with Aweber. It's a little different though, because this time you're going to name your template. This time, and what a lot of these creators do, knowing the popularity of something like MailChimp, they actually either create a specific folder for you to have already zipped up MailChimp kind of clients and stuff like that in there, Or what they'll do, or what you need to do is you just have to zip up the file. On Mac, that's called compress. On a Windows machine, that's called zip. Once you've done that, you'll upload that into the onto the screen there. It's very simple, easy breezy. You can walk through it. MailChimp does a great job with their user interface. So once you've done that, you'll see a screen will pop up, and on the left-hand side will be the template itself. On the right-hand side is like all of the code, right, that creates this template, as it were. Everything's fine there. Once you're done there, you're going to click the bottom where it says save and exit. You can kind of scroll up and down, kind of see what you're working with. You're going to click save and exit. Now, once you've done that, from that same template screen, click on the down arrow on the right-hand side, right by edit, and you're going to click create campaign. So now you're going to create a campaign using this newly uploaded template. You're going to select the audience you want it to go to. You're going to name your campaign. You're going to select your email subject line, all of that kind of stuff. And then from there, what you're going to do is it'll take you to the traditional like design tab that you're used to seeing in MailChimp. So this is very different than how you handle it with Aweber. The big thing with Aweber is when you're in something like Stamp Ready, what you need to do is you need to have, and I'll head back over to Stamp Ready real quick. What you need to have, like at the ready, as it were, is you need to actually have that campaign made, done, and like ready to go in Stamp Ready to then export and send over to Aweber, which is kind of interesting. So you get this like free reign to kind of create what you want over here in over here on Stamp Ready. Then you just click export, you send it to your desktop, and you're off to the races. In something like MailChimp, the difference is that you can create within the actual platform, which is really, really cool. Over to the left-hand side, as you're selecting the actual tabs and stuff like that, you can see where you can bring in a quote box, depending on the theme you download, a quote box, featured content, right, half left, half right, call to actions, all of this type of spacing, all of these types of things can be brought in on the left-hand side of the screen under kind of the menu system in MailChimp. So it's really easy to kind of create within the MailChimp ecosystem, as it were. So those are the kind of the two different ways to then make this content between Aweber and MailChimp, and that's how you get it all done. Really cool, really neat, not a hard thing to do, but it's one of those things, like I mentioned before, we like to talk about transparency. We like to be as real as we can with you guys, and that's as real as it gets. I had recommended that option to a bunch of people, having never really done it myself because I'd always designed them myself. And it was just, I had already known the process. I already knew how to do all that kind of stuff. So when I went and I did it myself, I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy, how kind of strange this can be. So that's how you get it done. And that's actually how you upload both to Aweber, which is the service we use, or MailChimp. Again, links for everything I've been talking about in the show notes over at nodemba.com. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is something that, again, like I said before, it's a bit of that when the cat is away, the mice will play scenario. We tend to not like to talk about things on the show that are conjecture, things that aren't, or that we don't have a true bead on analytically, things that are just our opinions. You know, we give our opinions a lot, but as a holistic entire topic for a show, we don't typically love that stuff. One of the things that we haven't talked a ton about on the show before is deal flow. We get emails all the time. We talk to people whenever we're at events, mixers, on webinars, in person, just all of that type of stuff. We get these questions about deal flow. Why is deal flow such a struggle right now? Why is there seem to be the faucet is turned off, when it comes to deal flow? And we don't technically really have an answer for that. At least I don't have an answer for that. We do deals with people that have, come to us either through the show or doing our outreach or doing good business with other people, and then they connect us with other people, all of that type of stuff. And so typically we're not seeing as much of a slowdown as maybe some other people, especially if you're new to the business, might be seeing. Except for the fact that even in my scenario, even in the scenario of someone who's doing this day in, day out, node investing, there has seemed to be a bit of a slowdown when it comes to deal flow. And not only that, there's this really interesting thing that's happening with sellers. Independently having multiple conversations with different investors, I've had conversations with two different investors, or one investor and another, who essentially both put in close to $400,000 almost $500,000 independently, separately. So close to $1 million, right? Like a little, probably close to a little over $800,000 into as far as bids were on deals. And both couldn't close because the seller didn't like the price. Now, obviously what you can say is, I was trying to buy 50 deals for $400,000, but these were appropriately priced. Reviewing some of these deals with these two individuals, the dollar amount was fine, right? I guess not considering the seller not selling, but it was a completely reasonable bid to have submitted on a lot of these deals. And one of these potential buyers had actually shopped, basically saying, these are the ones I love. I'm willing to take these kind of iffy ones off your books. If you give me the pricing. I mean, they were really trying to work with this seller, and the deal still couldn't get done at price points that made sense. At close to $500,000 in buying power, still couldn't get the deal done. So even if you're seeing a slowdown in deal flow, on top of that, even when you're ready to buy, there's a unique thing happening out in the market just from the seller's side that I'm very interested in, and potentially we'll talk more about it in future shows. But just know that this is something that you're not crazy if this is a place that you're at, and make sure that you're pricing your deals appropriately. We've talked about this time and time again on the show. Make sure that you're doing your calculations as best as you possibly can, because you don't want to be caught in a scenario where you're trying to eke out a deal, where a deal just got way too skinny, way skinnier than it should have been. You want to make sure that you're avoiding that. You want to avoid those opportunities. So I'm seeing a slight slowdown, just like a lot of other people are seeing it, but I'm also seeing some interesting behavior from sellers. Now, a lot of people are talking about we've been 8 years straight in a bull market. They're seeing signs on the wall. Things are starting to get interesting. Seeing news articles come out about increased, household debt is back to the levels of 2006, 7, and 8, and 9. Different things are happening with delinquencies and foreclosures, and all kinds of stuff is coming down regarding all of this. So it's likely that potentially for what it is that we do as note investors, we might have more opportunity coming up soon. That is the sentiment of many of the investors that we talk with on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. But that's not necessarily a place where you want to bank your stuff, right? But when it comes to this deal slowdown, just continue to try to find new and better sellers. When it comes to sellers that just don't want to work with you, just don't buy from them then. When they send out tapes, stop responding, stop reacting. It's essentially a scenario where a lot of times we talk about, not to get political on the show, but if you don't like what's happening, in your local government, state, city, whatever, national, let your voice be heard through the only medium with which you have. Either step up and run or vote the way you want it to be done, right? The same thing happens with your buying dollars. If they are not representing the deals rightly, and they're not giving you the proper, run when it comes to these deals, you've got to let your voice be heard. And the only way you know how, have a conversation with them, be as honest and professional as possible, and then just stop buying from them. Because eventually they're going to understand that this is a symbiotic relationship, that it is absolutely a two-way street. They've got something to sell, you've got something you want to buy. Anyway, guys, that is it for this week's show. Hopefully Robbie had just a bonkers good time out in Haiti. He will, without a doubt, come back and give us a full rundown, I hope, of the great stuff that they were doing down there for charity for the children and the families and the orphanage and all that kind of stuff that was happening down there. Apologies to the voice. Hopefully it'll be a little bit better next week. If not, you'll get that cool jazz 99.5, which would be awesome too, I'm sure. And updates on the deals. Hopefully this marketing bit made sense. If you're listening on audio, of course, head over to YouTube so you can kind of watch the rundown real quick. I highly recommend you step up your marketing game. It's something I'm always talking about. And now you have kind of the walkthrough for how to get better looking emails, better looking email templates and things like that. Alrighty, that is it for this week's show, guys. Thank you so much. As always, head over to iTunes, give us a rating, give us a review, and of course, subscribe. Head over to YouTube, give us a subscribe over there as as well. Check out the video version of this week's show. Hopefully it holds up well. I hope it does. And as always, you can check out NoteMBA.com for any links and everything in the show notes. Of course, you can check the description of the video over on YouTube as well. And as always, be sure to tell 5 other people you know this week about the Note MBA podcast. Heck, included in that new email template that you're sending out. I'll catch you guys next week. Bye.